Neanderthals and Neandertals UK. Neanderthalensis, also niʻændərઃtəːl, theta-l, are a species, a subspecies of archaic human, in the genus Homo, which became extinct around 40,000 years ago. They were closely related to modern humans, having DNA over 99.5% the same. Remains left by Neanderthals include bone and stone tools, which are found in Eurasia from Western Europe to Central, Northern and Western Asia. Neanderthals are generally classified by paleontologists as the species Homo neanderthalensis, having separated from the Homo sapiens lineage 600,000 years ago, or alternatively as a subspecies of Homo sapiens. Several cultural assemblages have been linked to the Neanderthals in Europe. The earliest, the Mousterian stone tool culture, dates to about 160,000 years ago. Late Mousterian artifacts were found in Gorham's Cave on the south-facing coast of Gibraltar. Compared to Homo sapiens, Neanderthals had a lower surface-to-volume ratio with shorter legs and a bigger body in conformance with Bergmann's rule. As an energy loss reduction adaptation to life in a high-latitude climate, their average cranial capacity of 1,600 cc was notably larger than the 1,250 to 1,400 cc average for modern humans. Males stood 164 to 168 centimeters and females 152 to 156 centimeters tall. The Neanderthal Genome Project published papers in 2010 and 2014 stating that Neanderthals contributed to the DNA of modern humans, including most humans outside sub-Saharan Africa, as well as a few sub-Saharan Africa's populations, through interbreeding, likely between 50,000 and 60,000 years ago. Recent studies also show that a few Neanderthals began mating with ancestors of modern humans long before the large out-of-Africa migration of the present-day non-Africans, as early as 100,000 years ago. In 2016, research indicated that modern humans had 3 distinct interbreeding events with Neanderthals. The first encounter involved the ancestors of all non-African modern humans, probably soon after leaving Africa. The second, after the ancestral Melanesian group had branched off, and the third, involving the ancestors of East Asians only. In December 2013, researchers reported evidence that Neanderthals practiced burial behavior and intentionally buried the dead. In addition, scientists reported having sequenced the entire genome of a Neanderthal for the first time. The genome was extracted from the toe bone of a 50,000-year-old Neanderthal found in a Siberian cave. In 2016, elaborate constructions of rings of broken stalagmites made by early Neanderthals around 176,000 years ago were discovered 336 meters inside Bruniquel cave in southwestern France. This would have required a more advanced social structure than previously known for Neanderthals. Name: the species is named after one of the first sites where its fossils were discovered in the 19th century, about 12 kilometers east of Düsseldorf, Germany, in the Feldhofer cave, located at the Dussel River's Neander Valley. ʻtɔːl is an older spelling of the German word Tal, which means valley. Neanderthal 1 was known as the Neanderthal cranium or Neanderthal skull in anthropological literature, and the individual reconstructed on the basis of the skull was occasionally called the Neanderthal man. The binomial name Homo neanderthalensis, extending the name Neanderthal man for the individual type specimen to the entire species, was first proposed by the Anglo-Irish geologist William King in 1864, although that same year King changed his mind and thought that the Neanderthal fossil was distinct enough from humans to warrant a separate genus. Nevertheless, King's name had priority over the proposal put forward in 1866 by Ernst Haeckel, Homo stupidus. The practice of referring to the Neanderthals and a Neanderthal emerged in the popular literature of the 1920s. The German pronunciation of Neanderthaler and Neandertaler is in the International Phonetic Alphabet. In British English, Neanderthal is pronounced with the T, as in German, with different vowels. In layman's American English, Neanderthal is pronounced with a theta, and, instead of the longer British a, although scientists typically use the T, as in German. Classification. Scientists to this day debate over whether Neanderthals should be classified as a distinct species, Homo neanderthalensis, or as Homo sapiens, Neanderthalensis, the latter placing Neanderthals as a subspecies of H. sapiens. During the early 20th century, the prevailing view has been heavily influenced by Arthur Keith and Marcellin Boule, who wrote the first scientific description of a nearly complete Neanderthal skeleton. Senior members of the respective national paleontological institutes and among the most eminent paleoanthropologists of the time, both men argued that this primitive Neanderthal could not be a direct ancestor of modern man. This idea was reflected in an erroneous and inaccurate reconstruction of the Neanderthal findings of Le Saints, mounted in a crooked pose with a deformed and heavily curved spine and legs buckle. During the 1930s, scholars Ernst Mayr, George Gaylord Simpson and Theodosius Dobzhansky reinterpreted the existing fossil record and came to different conclusions. Neanderthal man was classified as Homo sapiens neanderthalensis, an early subspecies of what was now called Homo sapiens sapiens. The obviously unbroken succession of fossil sites of both subspecies in Europe was considered evidence that there was a slow and gradual evolutionary transition from Neanderthals to modern humans. Contextual interpretations of similar excavation sites in Asia lead to the hypothesis of multi-regional origin of modern man in the 1980s. Contemporary views consensus prevails that both species evolved from a common African ancestor, Homo erectus. Fossil and tool finds support the idea that during the first migration wave of around 2 million years ago, small groups of Homo erectus left Africa, via the Levant, the Black Sea area into Georgia and possibly via northwestern Africa towards southern Spain. The 1.2 million years old, highly fragmented finds in Spain are referred to as Homo antecessor by the discoverers and considered to be the ancestors of Neanderthal. This interpretation, however, is highly controversial and is not supported by the results of recent genetic research that deals with the relation of anatomically modern humans and Neanderthals. Some 600,000 years ago, a second propagation wave of African Homo erectus took place. Skulls from that period found in Spain, for example, suggest a brain volume of between 1100 ccm to 1450 ccm. The brain volume of fossils from the first propagation wave is, however, estimated only to be slightly above 1000 ccm. Homo erectus that arrived in Europe in the second wave of colonization developed into Neanderthals through the intermediate Homo heidelbergensis. Since about 200,000 years ago in Africa, the so-called early anatomically modern humans descended from the local Homo erectus through the intermediate Homo rhodesiensis. Evidence from mitochondrial DNA studies has been interpreted as evidence Neanderthals were not of subspecies of H. sapiens. Others, for example University of Cambridge professor Paul Mellers, say, no evidence has been found of cultural interaction. Debated remains the period when the Neanderthal lineage separated from the lineage that led to modern man. In 2010, a period between 440,000 to 270,000 years BP was calculated by the molecular clock method. However, the reliability of molecular clocks is questionable as dating determined by stratigraphic methods varies considerably from those determined using the molecular clock. In 2012, recalculation of the mutation rates revealed evidence of a much earlier separation between 800,000 and 400,000 years ago. Origin. The first representatives of the genus Homo with proto-Neanderthal traits are believed to have existed in Eurasia as early as 350,000–600,000 years ago, with the first true Neanderthals appearing between 200,000 and 250,000 years ago. The exact date of their extinction had been disputed, but in 2014, a team led by Thomas Hyam of the University of Oxford used an improved radiocarbon dating technique on material from 40 archaeological sites to show that Neanderthals died out in Europe between 41,000 and 39,000 years ago, with the last group disappearing from southern Spain 28,000 years ago. Radiocarbon dating performed on charcoal in Gorham's Cave in Gibraltar in 2006 suggests that Neanderthals lived there 24,000 to 28,000 years ago. This coincides with the start of a very cold period in Europe and is 5,000–18,000 years after Homo sapiens reached the continent. Comparison of the DNA of Neanderthals and Homo sapiens suggests that they diverged from a common ancestor between 350,000 and 400,000 years ago. This ancestor was probably Homo heidelbergensis. Heidelbergensis originated between 800,000 and 1,300,000 years ago, and continued until about 200,000 years ago. It ranged over Eastern and South Africa, Europe and Western Asia. Between 350,000 and 400,000 years ago, the African branch is thought to have started evolving towards modern humans and the Eurasian branch towards Neanderthals. Scientists do not agree when Neanderthals can first be recognized in the fossil record, with dates ranging between 200,000 and 300,000 years BP. Discovery. Neanderthal skulls were first discovered in the Engis Caves, in what is now Belgium, by Philippe Charles Schmerlingen in Forbes Quarry, Gibraltar, dubbed Gibraltar 1, both prior to the type specimen discovery in a limestone quarry of the Neander Valley in Urkrath near Düsseldorf in August 1856. 3 years before Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species was published. The type specimen, dubbed Neanderthal 1, consisted of a skull cap, 2 femora, 3 bones from the right arm, 2 from the left arm, part of the left ilium, fragments of a scapula, and ribs. The workers who recovered this material originally thought it to be the remains of a bear. They gave the material to amateur naturalist Johann Carl Fuhlrott, who turned the fossils over to anatomist Hermann Schaffhausen. To date, the bones of over 400 Neanderthals have been found. Timeline of research: 1829. The Engis 2 Neanderthal skulls were discovered in Engis, in present-day Belgium. 1848. Neanderthal skull Gibraltar 1 found in Forbes Quarry, Gibraltar. Called an ancient human at the time. 1856, Johann Carl Fuhlrott first recognized the fossil called Neanderthal man, discovered in Neanderthal, a valley near Mettmann in what is now North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany. 1864, William King proposed the name Homo neanderthalensis at a meeting of the British Association for the Advancement of Science, but then changed his mind and argued that Neanderthals were different enough from humans to warrant a separate genus, under the assumption that they were likely incapable of moral and theocentric conceptions. 1880, the mandible of a Neanderthal child was found in a secure context and associated with cultural debris, including hearths, Mousterian tools, and bones of extinct animals. 1886, two nearly perfect skeletons of a man and woman were found at Spire, Belgium, at the depth of 16 feet with numerous Mousterian-type implements. 1899, hundreds of Neanderthal bones were described in stratigraphic position in association with cultural remains and extinct animal bones. 1899, sand excavation workers found bone fragments on a hill in Krapina, Croatia called Honjakovo Brdo. Local Franciscan friar Dominik Antokovic requested Dragutin Gorjanovic Kramberger to study the remains of bones and teeth that were found there. 1905, during the excavation in Krapina, more than 5,000 items were found, of which 874 residue of human origin, including bones of prehistoric man and animals, artifacts. 1908, a nearly complete Neanderthal skeleton was discovered in La Chapelle-aux-Saints, France, in association with Mousterian tools and bones of extinct animals. 1925, Francis Turville Petre finds the Galilee man, or Galilee skull, in the Zouti cave in Wadi Ahmad in the British Mandate of Palestine. 1926, skull fragments of Gibraltar II, a 4-year-old Neanderthal girl, discovered by Dorothy Garrett. 1953 to 1957, Ralph Solecki uncovered 9 Neanderthal skeletons in Shanadar Cave in the Kurdistan region of northern Iraq. 1975, Eric Trinkau's study of Neanderthal feet confirmed they walked like modern humans. 1981, the Bompnel Paleolithic site, Wales, yields the most northwestern site in Eurasia. 1987, thermoluminescence results from Israeli fossils date Neanderthals at Kobara to 60,000 BP and humans at Kafza to 90,000 BP. These dates were confirmed by electron spin resonance dates for Kafza and Eskul. 1991, ESR dates showed the Taban Neanderthal was contemporaneous with modern humans from Skul and Kafza. 1993 to 127,000-year-old DNA is found on the child of Sklein, found in Skladina, Belgium. 1994, Neanderthal remains inadvertently uncovered inside the Sidran Cave in Pilona Municipality, Asturias, northwestern Spain. Since then, the remains of at least 12 individuals, 3 men, 3 adolescent boys, 3 women and 3 infants have been found. In 2009, Neanderthal ancient mtDNA was partially sequenced in HVR region for 3 distinct Neanderthals there. 1997, Matthias Krings et al. Are the first to amplify Neanderthal mitochondrial DNA using a specimen from Feldhofer Grotto in the Neander Valley. 1997 to 2000, during new excavations in the Neanderthal, additional bone fragments are found, some of which fit the fragments found in 1856, thus pinpointing the exact location of the original find. found. The exact location had previously been unknown, as the site of the find was destroyed by limestone mining. 1998, a team led by prehistory archaeologist João Zilão discovered an early Upper Paleolithic human burial in Portugal, at Abrigo de Lagavelo, which provided evidence of early modern humans from the west of the Iberian Peninsula. The remains, a largely complete skeleton of an approximately 4-year-old child, buried with pierced shell and red ochre, is dated to California. 24,500 years BP. The cranium, mandible, dentition, and postcrania present a mosaic of European early modern human and Neanderthal features. 2000, Igor Ovchinnikov et al. Retrieved mitochondrial DNA of a Neanderthal infant from Mezmaiskaya cave in the Caucasus. 2005, the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology launched the Neanderthal Genome Project in cooperation with Connecticut-based 454 Life Sciences and the Institute of Quaternary Paleontology and Geology in Zagreb, Croatia. In 2009, the Max Planck Institute announced the first draft of a complete Neanderthal genome is completed. 2010, comparison of Neanderthal genome with modern humans from Africa and Eurasia shows that 1 to 4% of modern non-African human genome might come from the Neanderthals. 2010, discovery of Neanderthal tools far away from the influence of H. sapiens indicate that the species might have been able to create and evolve tools on its own, and therefore be more intelligent than previously thought. Furthermore, it was proposed that the Neanderthals might be more closely related to Homo sapiens than previously thought, and that may in fact be a subspecies of it. Evidence has more recently emerged that these artifacts are probably of H. sapiens origin. 2012, charcoal found next to 6 paintings of seals in Neanderthal caves, Malaga, Spain, has been dated to between 42,300 and 43,500 years old. The paintings themselves will be dated in 2013, and if the pigment matches the date of the charcoal, they would be the oldest known cave paintings. José Luis Sanchidrian at the University of Córdoba, Spain, believes the paintings are more likely to have been painted by Neanderthals than early modern humans. 2013, a jawbone found in Italy had features intermediate between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, suggesting it could be a hybrid. The mitochondrial DNA is Neanderthal. 2013, an international team of researchers reported evidence that Neanderthals practiced burial behavior and intentionally buried the dead. 2014, researchers at the University of Colorado Museum in Boulder report that Neanderthals were not less intelligent than modern humans, and that single-factor explanations for the disappearance of the Neanderthals are not warranted anymore. 2014, Professor Thomas Hyam of the University of Oxford performed the most comprehensive dating of Neanderthal bones and tools ever carried out, which demonstrated that Neanderthals died out in Europe between 41,000 and 39,000 years ago. This coincides with the start of a very cold period in Europe and is 5,000 years after Homo sapiens reached the continent. Habitat and range. Early Neanderthals lived in the last glacial period for a span of about 100,000 years. Because of the damaging effects the glacial period had on the Neanderthal sites, not much is known about the early species. Countries where the remains are known include most of Europe south of the line of glaciation, roughly along the 50th parallel north. This includes most of Western Europe, Central Europe, the Carpathians, and the Balkans, some sites in Ukraine and in Western Russia, Central and Northern Asia up to the Altai Mountains, and Western Asia from the Levant up to the Indus River. The Bompner with Paleolithic site at Denbighshire, North Wales is the most northwestern site of Neanderthal remains and one of the oldest remains in Britain. It is estimated that the total Neanderthal population across this habitat range numbered at around 70,000 at its peak. Neanderthal fossils have not been found to date in Africa, but there have been finds close to North Africa, both on Gibraltar and in the Levant. At some Levantine sites, Neanderthal remains date from after the same sites were vacated by modern humans. Mammal fossils of the same time period show cold-adapted animals were present alongside these Neanderthals in this region of the eastern Mediterranean. This implies Neanderthals were better adapted biologically to cold weather than modern humans and at times displaced them in parts of the Middle East when the climate got cold enough. However, this has been disputed recently through studies of the cranial morphology and sinuses. Some scholars have also posited that Neanderthals could be an Asian species which expanded into Europe, making Neanderthals a tropical species rather than cold-adaptive. Homo sapiens appears to have been the only human type in the Nile River Valley during these periods, and Neanderthals are not known to have ever lived southwest of present-day Israel. When climate change caused warmer temperatures, the Neanderthal range likewise retreated to the north, along with the cold-adapted species of mammals. Apparently these weather-induced population shifts took place before modern peoples secured competitive advantages over the Neanderthal, as these shifts in range took place well over 10,000 years before modern people totally replaced the Neanderthal. Despite the recent evidence of some successful interbreeding, separate developments in the human line in other regions such as southern Africa somewhat resembled the Eurasian Neanderthals, but these people were not Neanderthals. One such example is Rhodesian man, who existed long before any classic Eurasian Neanderthals, but had a more modern set of teeth. Some H. rhodesiensis populations appear to be on the road to modern H. sapiens sapiens. At any rate, the populations in Eurasia underwent increasing Neanderthalization over time. Some have suggested that H. rhodesiensis in general was ancestral to both modern humans and Neanderthals, and that at some point the two populations went their separate ways. But this argument presupposes that H. rhodesiensis existed around 600,000 years ago. To date, no intimate connection has been found between these similar archaic people and the Eurasian Neanderthals, at least during the same time as H. rhodesiensis seems to have lived about 600,000 years ago, long before the time of classic Neanderthals. This said, some researchers think that H. rhodesiensis may have lived much later than this period, depending on the method used to date the fossils, so this question remains open to debate. Some H. rhodesiensis features, like the large brow ridge, may have been caused by convergent evolution. It appears incorrect, based on present research and known fossil finds, to refer to any fossils outside Eurasia as true Neanderthals. They had a known range that possibly extended as far east as the Altai Mountains, but not farther to the east to south, and apparently not into Africa. At any rate, in northeast Africa, the land immediately south of the Neanderthal range was possessed by modern humans Homo sapiens idle to Homo sapiens, since at least 160,000 years before the present. 160,000-year-old hominid fossils at Jebel Arud in Morocco were previously thought to be Neanderthal, but it is now clear that they are early modern humans. classic Neanderthal fossils have been found over a large area, from northern Germany to Israel and Mediterranean countries like Spain and Italy in the south, and from England and Portugal in the west to Uzbekistan in the east. This area probably was not occupied all at the same time. The northern border of the range, in particular, would have contracted frequently with the onset of cold periods. On the other hand, the northern border of the range as represented by fossils may not be the real northern border of the area they occupied, since Middle Paleolithic-looking artifacts have been found even farther north, up to 60 degrees north, on the Russian plain. Recent evidence has extended the Neanderthal range by about 1,250 miles east into southern Siberia's Altai Mountains. Anatomy. Neanderthal anatomy differed from modern humans in that they had a more robust build and distinctive morphological features, especially on the cranium, which gradually accumulated more derived aspects as it was described by Marcel and Boole, particularly in certain isolated geographic regions. These include shorter limb proportions, a wider barrel-shaped rib cage, a reduced chin, and, perhaps most notably, a large nose, which was much larger in both length and width, and started somewhat higher on the face than in modern humans. Evidence suggests they were much stronger than modern humans, with particularly strong arms and hands, while they were comparable in height, based on 45 long bones from at most 14 males and 7 females. Neanderthal males averaged 164 to 168 centimeters and females 152 to 156 centimeters tall. Samples of 26 specimens in 2010 found an average weight of 77.6 kilograms for males and 66.4 kilograms for females. A 2007 genetics study suggested some Neanderthals may have had red hair and blonde hair, along with a light skin tone. A 2013 study of Neanderthal skulls suggests that their eyesight may have been better than that of modern humans, owing to larger eye sockets and larger areas of the brain devoted to vision. Neanderthals are known for the large cranial capacity, which at 1,600 cc is larger on average than that of modern humans. One study has found that Neanderthal brains were more asymmetric than other hominid brains. In 2008, a group of scientists produced a study using three-dimensional computer-assisted reconstructions of Neanderthal infants based on fossils found in Russia and Syria. It indicated that Neanderthal and modern human brains were the same size at birth, but that by adulthood, the Neanderthal brain was larger than the modern human brain. They had almost the same degree of encephalization as modern humans.